Okay.
Two players
seems-
with beautiful custom avatars.
Oh, I love the custom avatars. They're great. Oh man. Yeah, I keep on like looking in different directions. I'm sorry about that. My monitors are like all switched up for some reason. I'm just like going back and forth. Oh man. I was trying to do a different stream at some point and it kind of messed some stuff up. I'll just say speedrunning old games is not the easiest thing to set up.
So I saw your
Oh.
tweet. Do you want to talk about your speedrunning escapades?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So I Malieve is not here right now. But I'm still gonna blame her for giving me the speedrun bug. I've been wanting to speedrun a game for a little while now. But I didn't really figure out which one would really be good for me or anything. Because
what was your thought process for how you picked a game?
it would have had to have been a game that I already was pretty intimately acquainted with. Like something that I played in my childhood or something like that, something that I was actually like passionate about, that I really like, as opposed to just like, oh, that's a good speedrun game, I'll just do that. So I wanted to be something that I actually wanted to play and found enjoyable playing. So something that I played as a kid, like constantly, was the actual pod racing game for PC, the Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, which is like the worst name for a game. It should have just been Star Wars Pod Racing. Like, come on. How could you not just call it pod racing? That's like the Anyway,
what was the full title?
Star Wars Episode 1 Racing? Something like that. I don't know why they even called it Episode 1, because I mean it came around that time, but like it was a weird choice.
Yeah, they should have lent on pod like that was one of the cool things about the original Star Wars movies was pod racing, right? Like,
yeah, it was. It is pod racing. I don't know why they just didn't call it pod racing though. So anyway, we're gonna talk about this batch for a little bit, and then we'll get back to pod racing. As much as I love that. So we got 2 speed boosts here on this battlefield, as well as a corrupted tile. Both players definitely opting to go for that speed boost immediately. Both pretty far away from the corrupted tile as well. Elephant has placed down that totem right in the center, so perfect place for it at this point. Hits everybody. Did a lot of combos in right there. But that engineer is definitely dishing out some additional damage back onto Elephant's characters there. So see how this shapes up. Warriors off of that speed boost tile, probably allowing Bolt to get on there. Probably.
Oh, Malieve is just popping up in the Discord. She will be joining us.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Today.
We can talk about pod racing then. Because Malieve has no idea anything about that game, probably.
Yeah. So I think Ali made a good choice here with Totem. I mean, obviously,
yes,
it's a solid choice in this kind of map, being able to just control the positioning. A little bit. I feel like Warwick wants to play with the corpse cannon.
So do we all. So yeah, I mean, you know, the only unfortunate thing about the placement of that totem right now is that there will be no corpse cannon at this point to rocket someone into the corrosive tile. Not to say that you can't replace that totem somewhere, but it does take an additional turn out of there. Really letting Bolt have it at this point. Bolt's gonna have to get back to that speed tile pretty quickly. The only unfortunate thing about that is that if they get knocked out on that speed tile, that's it for the speed tile. So the warrior might want to get back on there as soon as possible, but we'll see what happens here. Yeah, the nice thing about having the speed tile in that front column is that you really don't want to have, like, you want your squishier characters probably to have more turns because they just have more output potential, but you know, they have that trade-off of wanting to be protected. But if you put them in that front column, one, they can't be really protected unless you have Excuse me. I just saw that. That was a really good use of that electrocute right there. Only one place to go. So unless you have Shio, you can't really protect someone that's in that front column there. Which actually Shio might be a good choice on this map in particular, primarily just for that option.
Yeah,
so,
the placement of those speed ups, and especially with that totem, kind of breaks up a lot of the standard formations, but Shio's weirdly shaped
yeah.
guard can kind of counteract that somewhat.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of that guard because it allows those more kind of like L-shaped Tetramino kind of shapes as opposed to just, you know, your standard row and column type formations. But as of right now, Works is very much staggered, so we'll see what happens here.
Getting some solid steam in there. Totem's doing some damage.
So we'll see if Works continues to target Bolt right now. I mean, it's generally a pretty good idea to put Bolt back in the turn order. Not sure if it's necessarily going to put Bolt back in the turn order behind the Berserker. It does not, unfortunately, but depending on how, you know, what Elephant wanted to do here, that could mess up their turn order slightly. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the same question of whether they, I was going to say whether they put the engineer straight on the speed boost, and Works has opted to do that.
Berserker really getting some additional damage in there, but it's all about getting Bolt in there to get to secure the knockout. We've got it.
Managing to jump in and lay the guard down in front of Bolt
exactly.
as well.
Very good. So going from just switching at just the right moment from an all-out offense to getting a more of a defensive structure here. Probably just in time to protect Bolt from that warrior strike there, because that probably would have been it, actually. That would have knocked out Bolt. I mean, we can double check those
yeah, I mean, I guess all...
Yeah, that would have been close.
Works' main option here is using the arm hook to try and sneak some damage in behind the guard, but even that probably won't take Bolt out before their next turn.
Yeah, that's true.
If the Berserker was still alive, then pulling Bolt into tunnel vision may have been an option, but
yes, that's very true.
That's not going to happen either.
All right, engineers up. Let's see what we've got going on here. I mean, the issue with pulling Bolt out right now is that Bolt's immediately gonna have a turn again. So the only unfortunate thing here, I mean, Elephant has 3 characters in a row going, so really have to be careful about what they're gonna do and what combos they're gonna want to pull off here. We do pull that warrior out, which is excellent. No more 3 characters in a row, so that'll teach me to say anything about the current state of the battlefield. Yeah, I think this does change the math, though. We'll probably allow Warwicks to maybe use a round of Levitate to get to prevent some of that damage from the warrior happening. All right, both characters have been shocked here, taking some additional damage when they attack back.
Yeah, laying down shock before getting KO'd is always a pretty solid last move for Bolt. Assuming it is Bolt's last move. I mean,
we'll see what happens. I have a sneaking suspicion that might be Bolt's last move. That arm hook is a ranged ability, so... Oh, man. All right, didn't even get in that, so which is very interesting. So that corrosive tile is still wide open. Taking advantage of that speed boost there, but getting stunned again, so a net 0 on that engineer for their speed.
Yeah, I mean, Oryx has really no option here but just to just tank the steam, I think. But at least now they're in a pretty solid formation in terms of warrior and engineer positioning. Like maybe they just stick there.
Yeah, they might, to be honest. I mean, they could probably wait it out, but it looks like Alphen's gonna focus up here and bide their time for the time being. A lot of potential damage coming out of there. I definitely see a system overload in Warwick's future, unfortunately. So that's going to do a little bit of damage.
Yeah. I mean, there's really nothing they can do against Totem here.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Totem only has 34 health with relatively low defensive stats. Works does have damage output for both elemental and physical damage, so it's definitely a possibility to get through whatever stance Totem is currently using. So we'll see what happens here. Everybody focusing up, trying to see what someone else is gonna do. But at some point, Alphen's gonna have to make that move. Getting that speed boost so that Totem doesn't have 2 turns in a row is pretty important. Still gotta have an opportunity to overload and then probably place down another Totem. Or just try to use that Disruptor Blade there to push people back the turn order. But we are gonna put that Totem back down. We'll see if they can get another system overload out. Who knows? All right, we're focusing back up, so we'll say Elephant will probably look pretty good if they can get off that next system overload, and sacrificing the speed from the warrior to go protect them is probably a good idea at this point. All right, delaying turn. Engineer not in the greatest spot either at this point for Fire Lance, so getting a little bit of that broken defense in there. Lining up Warwick's next attack, which will probably do some decent damage, gotta say. It looks like we're gonna see a shove today. Maybe not on a knocked out character, but we are gonna see a shove, so. Probably, hopefully. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So there's another little subtlety which is maybe kind of counterintuitive, which is that your own teammates' bodies will block you, right? So the warrior can't now go stand on the berserker's tile, but they can stand on the tile with a bolt on quite happily.
That's true.
So there's kind of an inconsistency there, which gameplay wise I think makes sense, but
well, there's no decorum for your opponent's characters, so you can stand on them, it's no problem. Woof! Getting that overload in there.
Yeah.
In the dangerous levels at this point.
Interesting that Warwick's didn't just super focus on trying to take Totem out there.
Yeah, Totem is very disruptive, especially if you let them just continue to be useful throughout the match through that replacement of the Totem, the disruption that they can kind of output. All right, we're back to that last one standing here. A little bit difficult for Works to come back from this one. You see lots of bonuses there, though. It looks like Elephant is going to seal the deal here. I was gonna say something that Works could have done was launch one of those bodies to get some ranged attack damage in there. Wouldn't have triggered that stance. But it looks like we are just going to use a pressure release there, and Alvin does take victory. Well done.
GG. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Those speed boosts making it a little bit harder to predict exactly how the turn order is going to play out, and I think, yeah, the battles overall are a bit less cut and dry.
Yes, definitely. All right. I see, believe, lurking in chat. Are we gonna fight today? It's fine if you don't have time to. That's cool, but I want to see some some knocked out characters fly around.
What does Malieve glasses mean? Okay, there we go.
It's either two things. Time for Malieve to get serious, or Malieve is making fun of me for how many times I push up my glasses. Either one is fine, but I'd like to choose to believe that she didn't make that specifically for me, which that would be a little much. Yeah, I was gonna say. There's no way you made that for that purpose. All right. All right. Do we have a...
I just noticed we have another new player in the chat. This is Dinosaur. So maybe if they and Believe want to give it a go, yeah, let's see that. And it does not matter if you've never played before. The stakes are quite low. So just have fun. We can try and team up with you and out-strategize Believe, shall we?
Yeah, just let us know when y'all are in that fight so we can join up, spectate.
Yep, you should just have to click the link if you have the game client open, and hopefully it drops you straight in. Cool.
Yep.
Looks like they're in.
Sweet. All right. Cannot believe that Malieve does not have a custom avatar at this point. We'll have to get another tournament running then.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous state of affairs.
You have to earn that avatar, I believe. You can't just no. You can probably
she
just
has.
ask for it.
You know, I think she has earned it. It's just the dates have always lined up.
Oh, we have to get
and giving them out.
we have to get a mod flare on there as well. We probably put a mod flare on a thing.
Oh, on Twitch, you mean?
Yeah. No, I mean on in battle, like in combat.
Oh, yeah.
Like the sorry, I haven't switched on over to the game yet, but you gotta there's room for even more. There's room for more flare that's gonna get hidden by that versus thing. Which I'm currently in the process of working on that UI, so.
Oh, you've been working on this screen in particular?
Yeah, we've been working on lots of the odds and ends. And this is one of them.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the way the UI is shaping up. It's looking very cool.
Super excited. It's gonna take a little while, but it's gonna look real cool. Or at least I think so.
And it's going to be functional as well. Like, hopefully more
Yes.
functional as well as more cool.
I mean, that's that's half of it. I mean, the user has to use the interface, can't just look at it. All right, we're in. We got that half cover in the back row there. Right next to corrupted tile, though, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Okay, so I think this is Dinosaur has a very, very solid team selection. I think for a new player, this is probably the best team selection. What's your thoughts on that, Andrew?
It's definitely a chunky team with really good support abilities there with that ranger. Just kind of chilling behind the half cover there. So we'll see what happens. The only thing they're going to have to be wary of at this point is Maliv's Engineer, which as of right now can pull that Ranger into the corrosive tile, which would be, given the Ranger mostly relies on their evasion to mitigate damage. They can't really dodge out of that poison, so definitely going to have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, in terms of like Berserker placement, that's just pretty much luck of the draw at this point. I mean, you can kind of guess where you think your opponents are going to be. Putting that Berserker maybe in the middle row would have been good, so you can try to get that Engineer from turn 1. But at this point, there's 3 targets up, so the Berserker is going to line up eventually. All right, triggering that support right there. Little that the Ranger can do at that point other than maybe focus up to mitigate that damage, but we're going to support, get some extra attacks in. Surprisingly enough, Maliv has opted for a healing vapor with that, with I can't talk today, with the Chemist at this point, very early on. So getting a little bit of heals over time in there. Very kind of like tight formation.
Maybe anticipating like some early focus fire damage, they could kind of mitigate slightly with that.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the Chemist right now is probably the squishiest character on the battlefield at this point. They have little to no damage mitigation. They only have that kind of like healing stance. So speaking of which, mitigating that damage slightly. Shio's definitely taking a little bit of damage there, taking on a stack of fatigue as well, which reduces their defensive capabilities.
Yeah.
Albeit temporarily.
I think one other possibility that Dinosaur has is it's possible to set up chains with these stances. So I think right now the Ranger is supporting the Warrior. It's possible to have the Ranger support the Berserker, and then meaning the Ranger will support the Berserker on their turn, and if the Berserker's tunnel vision fires on the Warrior's turn, for example, then you could potentially get even more support stance triggerings in there, but that's very dependent on turn order and can be tricky to
that's true.
to pull off.
Maliv is opting for a long-term strategy here with all those focusing up turns there. It definitely helps out that the Chemist is there to help kind of mitigate some of that damage in the meantime while focusing up. So Maliv isn't losing too much ground in the tempo of this fight as of this point. Not too much damage has been spread around the battlefield quite yet. So definitely plenty of time to focus up and potentially do some more damaging moves later on in the fight. Getting some decent damage in there with the bash. Working away at that Engineer. All right, we got that tunnel vision. I think I know who we're focusing down right now. Let's get that Engineer before they can really get that focus ability off.
And we can see that the Warrior is going to have their turn before the Engineer really has a chance to move, so
that is definitely true.
Things could pile up pretty quick.
It's entirely possible to attempt to knock out that Engineer pretty soon.
Also, with that half cover in the way, Shio doesn't have a great way to step in to defend the Engineer unless they're happy to jump on the poison.
That is entirely true. Woo! Full focus there. We got a glowy side. We'll see what happens. I'm not exactly sure what Maliv is planning here, but since everyone is focused up, unlimited potential at this point. Eventually, Maliv is going to have to use that focus to get some damage in. But seen a lot of rousing speech right there, really stacking up those buffs on those characters. Unfortunately, a lot of debuffs on Shio at this point. But considering that Shio isn't necessarily the number one target for Dinosaur, I think that's a reasonable thing. All right, stacking up those bonuses there. We are off balance. We got some bonus damage from the warrior and bonus damage from the ranger. Engineer definitely dishing out some chip damage. Not that much, especially considering that it's spread out throughout all 3 characters. But yeah, that engineer's looking a little worse for wear, and also cannot use a focus ability next round. So they're kind of limited in what they can do at this point. That being said, there are definitely some good lines for the engineer to do right now.
Yeah, that's something we don't actually see used so often, the ability which blocks out the focus attack, but I think that was actually quite well placed there.
That was very well placed, because otherwise we would have seen a big old flame lance, whatever it's called at this point. let me double check. Ooh, it's fire lance. There we go. Fire flames, all that good stuff.
Yeah, this means that if Dinosaur can take out the engineer before their next turn, then the turn they spent focusing would essentially have been wasted.
Exactly. A little bit of a difficult situation at this point, considering that that engineer is levitating. So it can only really be targeted by range attacks. However, that berserker also does have trade blows, which easily, combined with that ranger, who just did a little bit of AoE damage there, could easily knock out that engineer. So we'll see what happens right now.
Yeah, so typically levitating characters can't be targeted by melee attacks, but the Berserker has pretty much the only exception to that in their trade blows ability.
Very true. And here we are. That's going to be it. Woo, 26 damage.
Good
All
night,
right.
engineer.
Bye, engineer. You did well, but like ultimately was not able to get off that focus ability, which really limited their damage output and their usefulness as a character in this particular fight.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a focused chemist right here. We'll see what Maliv wants to do with that.
Yeah, so far Maliv's damage has mostly been spread over Dinosaur's team, and no one is looking particularly in the danger zone on the right-hand side here.
All right, and there were 2 juicy characters right there, one of which was the Berserker, the other one was the Ranger. The only problem with, like, the Ranger technically had less health, so getting that Flame Flask in there would have done some decent amount of damage. However, the thing that you have to realize is that the Berserker does have very low elemental defense. So that Flame Flask, which does a decent chunk of damage on its own, but having it being elemental damage in nature, it's really going to do a number on the Berserker, and the Berserker is just going to burn out by the time they would have had their turn. So not a bad choice at all.
Although we may see a trigger of tunnel vision before that happens.
Yes, we might. So Berserker might have a little bit of damage output left in there. You do see a quick shot getting in there. Unfortunately for Maliv, wasn't quite in the stance that, she might have wanted to be in at this point, but can easily switch back over to that defensive stance. Unfortunately, that defense is relatively low right now.
And bye-bye Berserker. Yeah, really doing well in this game. It's all about squeezing out
It's true.
those extra little actions and those extra bits of damage, and getting that tunnel vision trigger there is a good example of that. If you can get that one last attack before your character goes down, then that's how you kind of edge ahead.
Exactly true. And speaking of edging ahead here, it looks like Maliv is just about to tie things up, considering that bonus damage from Shio's focus ability there, Rousing Speech, finally cashing in on that damage, dealing a lot more damage than I had initially thought that was going to do. So it looks like by the time the Ranger takes another turn, they're going to get hit by that poison damage and then get knocked out, unfortunately, behind that half cover. So it looks like we're going to have one character left on Dinosaur's side relatively soon. But I will say that the Warrior with Last One Standing bonus is pretty potent, I would say. A very tanky character. They can just, very steadily deal damage, especially with last one standing. All right, we'll see what kind of stance we're going to see here. We try to speed ahead in that turn order. And that's what it looks like we're going to do here. Getting 2 turns in a row pretty soon.
Poison finishing off the ranger there.
All right, we're just encouraging as much as possible to keep that chemist up and running here. I will say that the chemist does have probably the highest burst damage as of this at this point, at least. Definitely want to keep the chemist healthy and ready to deal. Use that flask to deal a lot of elemental damage. All right, just going for an all-out offensive strategy right there, which is a pretty good idea with that last one standing bonus, that little bonus you get there from going into that sentinel stance, which is normally 3 damage. When you add on that extra 50%, it's not bad. It definitely adds a little bit more of a punch to the warrior's basic kind of attacks. Chemist is up and running with a big damage boost on itself. Oof. 25 damage off of a flame flask is actually pretty decent, especially against the warrior who has naturally high elemental defense. What is this? We're going we're going ahead of Shia right there, trying to assumedly trying to take off more stacks of their fatigue there, and I think that's exactly what Maliv did right there. Kind of a last second kind of way of getting off a stack. Got a little more damage output from Dinosaur, I think, but I think the writing's on the wall for this battle, but a really, really good showing, especially early on by Dinosaur. Being able to take out that engineer pretty quickly helped out immensely. It's always good to see a character knocked out with that focus symbol still on them. That means that things didn't go quite to plan.
Yeah.
So all right, vigoring up. It looks like we're probably gonna see that piercing wit finish off this battle here. But not before the warrior gets a little strike in, doing 13 damage, 2 over. That's going to be enough. All right. Great battle, though. Really, really cool stuff. Great job knocking out that early so they couldn't use their focus abilities.
Yeah, that was pretty solid, considering Dinosaur only booted up the game for the first time about 10 minutes ago. That was pretty impressive. Like, they managed to find some synergies and use the stances effectively.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think they're, in terms of, like, the opening moves, like, if Dinosaur probably was a little bit more familiar with how some of the characters worked and kind of, like, not counterpicking, but, like, placing characters in certain places, like, I definitely think they could have gotten some more damage output in the beginning that would have made it, like, pretty close, actually.
Yeah. I think definitely, and up until when he was able to unleash all of the focus they built up, that could have gone either way, I think. Like,
yes.
Okay, who's next?
Up.
So, Oryx is around. I think Paul's in the chat. We have Dinosaur if they want to play again.
Yeah.
Ali also.
Yeah, whoever wants to drop a challenge in there. I'm seeing the chat in the Discord right now. Paul, you want to step in?
Okay, let's see Paul and Dino.
Yeah, sure.
I love that the situation is that we don't want to let somebody play Warwicks because we know that playing a dev is less of a challenge than taking on some of our regular players here.
It's unfortunately true. But yeah.
And when we have Warwicks and Ali after this, if they're both
Sure.
still around, cool.
Yeah, just let me know when y'all are in there. Sweet. Alright.
I wonder what kind of layout we'll see this time.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we get some healing drops here. What happens?
Yeah, I guess it depends what playlist they chose there.
Yeah, I have no idea. We cannot see cannot see those the pre-battle options as of this point, so it's going to be a surprise for us. If you're new to the game, there are rather pre-battle options that you can kind of vote on with your opponent. If you both vote on the same thing, it'll lock in that choice. Otherwise, it goes to a default. So we've got different playlists for terrain layouts, basically different battlefields that we've programmed in. You can choose the background for the battle. Do a couple other things as well. Turn timer is another one. What am I missing, Jason? I'm missing like one thing probably.
I think that's it.
Is that it? Okay.
You have the background, you have the layout, you have the turn timer, I believe. Okay, even more complicated.
Yep. All right, we've got
layout.
falling debris right now, which if you are counts down every single turn. So if you're caught when that ticks down to 0, you're gonna take some physical damage. So be careful. Paul is going for kind of a classic column layout there with a bunch of squishy characters though, so we'll see how this goes. Deciding not to take advantage of that half cover. Instead going for kind of like an all-out offensive shoulder-to-shoulder bonus there, so you get a little bit extra damage. Oh, I see what we're doing here. We're just hopping right back in there. Dinosaur focusing up there as well. See who does first blood here, so we know who's targeting what. That falling debris is going to move pretty soon, though, so that's also going to shake things up in terms of where you want to be. All right. Doing the math. 5 damage is 5 damage, I will say, even if it is ranged behind that half cover, but definitely worth it to try to knock out that chemist as early as possible. Balls respawn. Absolutely fine. Dinosaurs spawn even better. Already on that corrosive tile, so dinosaur didn't want to be there anyway. Got Bolt up right there, using a shot cannon to put a debuff on 2 characters. We got the Berserker and the Ranger in there, so if they do offensive abilities for the next couple of turns, they're going to take a little bit of damage. Also opens up some couple additional offensive options.
A couple of times there.
That's all good. But yeah, opens up a couple of more offensive options for Bolt later on to cash in some extra damage because of that debuff being applied right now. So still not exactly clear which character Paul is going to target at this point, but definitely starting to lay down some debuffs. Looks like we have pinned the Berserker. Pretty good, considering that the Berserker's turn is next. I'm limiting that offensive output here. Got a couple options here. Could possibly focus up, could possibly delay turn in order to kind of shuffle around that turn order a little bit, try to get around that in status effect. What do we got here? What do we got? Did we get a DC? What did we get here? Trying to figure that out. Oh, all right. We've got imposed there. I don't know if we got a client error or something, but woo! Got some explosive damage right there. Spreading that damage output throughout a couple of characters. Chemist is up, still focusing up there. That timed out. No, that happens. That definitely happens. Especially in the beginning. There's a lot of characters got a lot of different moves and stuff like that. So if you're not already familiar with what characters can do, you can definitely time out. You didn't miss too much with the Berserker, considering that they couldn't really move at that point. So don't worry about it too much. Warriors in there, locking off that focus. Chemist not looking too hot at this point, considering that they have low health and are kind of locked off of their focus ability, even though they do have that Vigor Potion there. So they basically missed 2 turns there because they took a turn to focus up and also took a turn to Vigor Potion themselves. So if they can't get that Flame Flask off, those will be kind of wasted turns at this point.
Hey, sorry, had some issues there. I probably pinged in and out of the
That's okay.
channel a few times.
No, that's okay. It's fine. I saw your icon show up and get out. That's fine. Elephant asked, does pin affect attack moves as well as moving on the turn? I'm gonna say yes. Pretty sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can't move to attack. You cannot move after your potential attack either. So pretty much stuck on that tile until you can go again. Dino looking pretty good here. Definitely locked out that chemist for the time being. The only character on Dino's side that's really taken much damage is that ranger. Paul really going for that focusing up again, so we might have to worry about another flame there. But that's quite a few turns away. Anything can happen.
Paul's chemist not looking too hot, and he's really got no options for defending that chemist, given his team lineup right here.
Yeah, exactly. Given that team lineup, the only really thing that Paul can do is put that chemist behind half cover to help with the ranger, but that's going to be a little bit too late here. They're going to take a little bit of damage from that ranger, who's also going to take damage by retaliating there from that engineer. But it looks like that ranger might get one more turn as well. So let's see what happens here. I think Dinosaur has the potential to put that chemist away right now.
Yeah. I mean, opting to support with the ranger and kind of doubling down on. I assume on taking this chemist out.
Done. 17 damage. Definitely worth it. You know, kind of fighting through that shock damage, but definitely worth it for Dino there. Even gets one more round on the ranger. Unfortunately, will take lethal damage from that corrosion pretty soon. And they're just going to take some shock damage, and you're going to take a little nap now. It looks like falling debris is going to reset pretty soon. Definitely hopping out of there right at the right time.
Just in time there.
Just in time. All right. Looks like Paul's also going to have to move bolts pretty soon.
Although
but,
he can
yeah.
probably stand to hang around until next turn, if it makes sense.
Yep. That is definitely true. I think if Paul does stay there, I think Dino can technically do some delay turn shenanigans to push that into hitting Bolt. So I'm not sure if that's gonna quite add up. Do you think that's gonna add up if they both delay their turns after each other? So there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I think it may do.
It might, yeah. But we'll see. You know, it's always a safe move. It's always a safe move to move off of the falling debris if you can. Considering that both of Paul's units don't really have much in the way of bonuses for sticking together there next to each other, considering their stances, there's no real reason to need to stay by that engineer at this point.
Yeah, I mean the only thing really is return fire. Like maybe it makes
Yes.
sense to stack them up for that reason, but apart from that,
Yes, that's entirely true. All right, we're starting to see Levitate there, trying to get out of that melee range.
question is Paul going to be able to leverage the engineer's focus, or
That's gonna be a negative, Jason.
Then? Caught by the stream delay. There we go.
I'm seeing it live. No 2-second lag here. All right, we are getting that tunnel vision in there. Bolt's looking could take a lot of damage right here. Get some additional damage from that off balance, not being able to use that focus ability. Definitely doing a lot of damage to the Berserker there with Bolt's stance, but it's not quite enough to push the Berserker into a very lethal kind of area. However, I will say that the Bolt does have some decent damage output, considering that they do have the last one standing bonus, so they don't necessarily need to use that focus ability. However, most of their attacks are melee, so that Sentinel stance does pose a problem for Bolt.
Yeah. Can we check Bolt's moveset quickly?
Yeah, sure. Let's check it out. So Bolt does have the Shocking Strike, which is melee. Shock Cannon is technically ranged, but that doesn't do any direct damage by itself. Electrocute is melee, so that would be where most of their damage output would be if they had that shock status effect. That Short Circuit is also melee, so Sentinel Stance does pose a bit of a problem for Bolt at this point of the game.
Yeah, this little defense with Sentinel that Dino has set up is... Yeah, Bolt doesn't really have a great way around that.
No, not necessarily. So it looks like the Berserker is probably going to be able to get off a little bit of damage before kicking it. They do only have 4 health left, so since I believe they are being affected by shocked, they will get knocked out as soon as they do any offensive kind of ability. But that's after they do damage, so they can safely deal a decent amount of damage before they can go. And it looks exactly like what they're going to do here. The great thing about this is that the warrior now has that buff, which is going to be more than enough damage to put it away at this point. Boom, there you go. Dino's first win on stream. All right. Welcome to Steamhounds.
Trial by fire there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think Dino immediately understood what you need to do with this team comp, which is basically it's all about chasing people with Berserker's tunnel vision, right? And trying to line things up and benefit from that as much as possible. Yeah, and that worked out there quite well.
Definitely. So who is up next? I believe is that Oryx and Ellie, I believe. Yeah, the off balance really got you. Yeah, you got locked out of a couple of focus abilities, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't seen anyone use that as part of their toolkit, so it's quite cool to see somebody shut somebody down quite decisively.
Maleev's sniping that dual link right there. We're gonna be back in it. Right. Will we see a healing drop here? I don't know if we're gonna see.
Yeah, I mean, if they choose the featured layout set, then there are a lot more healing drops in there. If they're on the default, then there are a few, but there's a lot more other layouts in rotation there too.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, speaking of speedrunners, I had never done anything like that before, so we're back to pod racing now. I was trying to get like an auto splitter to work, which if you're not familiar, it's basically like it's like split times in speedruns when you hit like certain checkpoints essentially, so you know how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to download like some additional programs to get that going. I had to dig real deep in order to get it set up in the first place. Yeah. Because every game is different, how it works and all that kind of stuff. And there we go. Speaking of healing terrain, we'll get back to speedrun in a second. But
yeah. So there's something interesting here, which is that you really don't want to stand on the healing pickup for turn 1.
That's exactly true.
It's going to be wasted, so it's an interesting effect on how people position themselves.
The fun thing about this is that I'm surprised that no one picked totem at this point, because you could have just put down the totem and just locked that healing pickup off.
Yeah.
Like a big jerk, but at least that's how I think. Just slap that healing totem down, completely lock off that zone. Oh, you can't put a trap on it? Jason, can we put a trap on it?
No, okay, yeah, so... Yeah,
that's a great idea. I like that.
One of the things, yeah, it would have been a good move. We probably should allow that. Yeah,
we'll
right now the objects which are like 3-dimensional They can't be stacked on top of each other, which makes sense in some cases, like the totem and the healing. But I guess the trap is more. It kind of just sits on the floor, so we probably should allow it to stack with certain things.
I mean, I think I like that as an idea in general, because it's like having a trap plus a pickup right there. Like it kind of just mitigates it. It gives you a net 0, but kind of like wastes your turn in terms of like being able to pick up actual health. So it doesn't like completely lock it off like a totem does. So I do like the idea of at least kind of like mitigating that healing potential as opposed to like locking it up completely. It also gives the ranger a use for using trap outside of a composition that has the engineer at that point. So it's nice for like locking out some kind of like buffs and bonuses that are like just on the ground like that.
Yeah, I'm sold. That should be in the next patch. I've made a note.
Yeah, I'm honestly fine with it also being. I mean, here's the real question: should we be able to place a trap on a speed boost tile?
I feel like we should.
Yeah,
it's kind of complex, right? Like different combinations and how you'd intuitively expect them to work.
Yeah, because I mean, like, in terms of like visual presentation and stuff like that, I don't think there's any particular reason why you wouldn't be able to, because like the healing pickup is just like a general buff. The same thing as the speed boost tile. It's not like an in fiction kind of thing at this point. But I do like that because it is a bonus that is just passively there, and I like having a soft way of disrupting that and forcing you to like put something in an inopportune spot that might not be like the best place in general to put something, but if it's on like a potential bonus, that's real cool. Speaking of which, yeah, that Allie, that ranger's not looking too hot right now. I completely missed a lot of stuff there. What happened to you, Ranger? Got knocked around a little bit. Electrocute, support, attack bonus. A lot of stuff going around there. Love this chain reaction here, though. The warrior. Triggering so many things. Excellent. You love to see it. And unfortunately, it looks like Believe will be able to take out Allie's Ranger there. Very close to using, with style too. Very close to using that first aid kit though, to get back into a safe health range, but not quite there. You know, the combination of being able to use like just one turn off, like the combination of being able to use that first aid kit plus hopping onto that the heal pickup would have really brought that ranger back into the fight, but unfortunately there's just a little too much damage. We'll see if Allie can come back from this one. All right, healing vapor is up.
Okay, I think I can see what Allie's planning to do.
Yeah, I mean, the chemist right now is very much in a support role. Is definitely going to attempt to keep that warrior up as much as possible. There's a lot of damage coming in, though. Oh, man.
Oof.
Oh.
Oof. Oof. Oof.
Check that out.
Wow.
Where'd that damage output come from? Absolutely disgusting. Just enough to survive, but not quite enough to stay in the fight, I think. That was rough. That was a lot of damage output.
Yep. Still requiring Relieve to spend a couple characters' turns actually finishing the warrior off.
Yeah, to clean it up.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, the kind of cleanup phase makes a huge difference in terms of being able to like it's really good to be able to switch over to another character as soon as you're done with that big combo and to kind of reline that up at that point. What happens is stuff like this, which kind of allows the warrior to get those sentinel stance triggers in to deal some additional damage. So unfortunately for Aliphin,
that was like 2 turns spent on about 15 or 20 points of damage.
Exactly.
Trying to take that warrior down.
Yeah, so definitely a you know, that extra 5 damage, extra like 4, like what was it, 4 or 5 health. It wasn't that much, but it definitely can be costly at the end of the day. So unfortunately for Aliphin here, the chemist needs 2 more rounds to output any actual damage. So unfortunately, that's a lot of, I see a lot of character portraits up there for Malieve, so it's gonna be a little while till we get that health drop as well. Getting in that 1 damage there. Oh, look at that. That's the perfect drop for that health bonus, though, right on the speed tile. Wow, look at that. Oh, I think that off balance is gonna seal it, though. I think that's it. Without a way to deal any damage output, that's rather unfortunate. Yeah, I personally really like the chemist as a character. However, in terms of a 1v1 situation, the warrior is kind of like a worst case scenario of what's on the other team because yeah, there's no damage output for that chemist other than the focus ability. So very specialized character, very powerful in a lot of different circumstances, but not the best brawler, I would say. A quick shot's gonna do you. Oof, we might have to roll back the tapes on one of those combos, I think. We got a couple of particularly nasty combos.
Yeah. That was some crazy damage being laid down there.
Yeah, awesome use of the speed tiles there. Yeah, Lurk probably would have been a good idea on those early turns just to get some additional attacks in there, but yeah, that happens. All right, Warwick's is in the next battle there, so whoever wants to hop in on that one is more than welcome to do so. Yeah, whoever jumps in there, yeah, just let us know, and then we'll switch on over to fight. Oh yeah, it's speedrunning.
Yes.
I'll eventually get that story out, but yeah. So it's a 20-year-old game. I believe it came out in '99. They did like it's not even a remaster. It was just like re-releasing it for more modern machines.
So it came out on PC. I remember it as was it N64 game?
Yes, it was Nintendo 64. Shoot, there was another system, I think. It was like it's PC, Nintendo 64, and technically there's a Switch build, and I think there's a PS5 as well. But generally the game, it's like mostly speedrun on PC, I believe.
Okay.
With some other stuff thrown in there as well. What else we got? Oh, it's on the Dreamcast too. I forgot about that. And also, correction, it's on the PS4, not the PS5. So anyway, but yeah, so it's mostly like PC stuff, and you're trying to run this game that was like not ported the best. So it's a little bit janky sometimes.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it likes to crash at the very end of the run.
Okay.
After you finish the run. After you finish the run, thankfully. At least for me. There's some ways to like put it in a wrapper basically in order to make it more stable. But I haven't really perfected that yet, so I'm just doing it as is. But yeah, it's interesting.
I see Ali jumping on the give Millie the goddamn avatar already train.
Yeah, we'll I think we can hook you up with one of those.
Yeah, honestly, we've talked about it already. It's kind of been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But yeah, the speed run's pretty quick though. Like, I think like the world record is like 23 and change for the particular 23 minutes. About.
So is that like once through each track? Like how does
No,
how is it
so
structured?
there's multiple like cups, so to speak. And so it's like the amateur circuit, which is like the first seven races.
Mhm.
And also there's a good amount of RNG in that game in terms of like upgrades, because there's like this junkyard basically that you can buy like upgrades for your pod racer from Watto, but those are like randomly generated. So the one that I'm doing is no upgrades. You don't buy any upgrades for any of your pod racers. So you just do the first seven tracks. You can switch your characters at any time, and you do once, I believe. And you don't buy any upgrades, which makes the ones later a little bit more difficult, but not really, because you're speedrunning, so you should probably pretty fast compared to it on the amateur circuit, at least.
I mean, it's kind of assumed that you're gonna win, right? I mean,
yeah, you don't have to win necessarily for the speedrun, but you probably should be unless you're doing bad. So
are there any crazy skips or crazy technical stuff?
The one that I'm doing right now, I'm not running any skips. I think generally in those first 7 races, especially since you can't upgrade your pod racer, there's almost no skips you can actually do, because you can't like make your pod racer like super fast, which allows you to go like out of bounds sometimes and all that kind of stuff, like going off certain ramps and then like deloading stuff. It gets crazy near some of the ones at the end, but there's like one skip that like one person can do consistently, and it's on the first track, I believe. And it only saves like 20 to 30 seconds maybe, which is a big deal, but like that's the only skip there is that's like consistent enough to pull off in that particular run. There's tons of other ones, but not like they're outside of that run. They're for like the any percent, 100%, and all the other ones like some stuff, but this one's a little bit more manageable for me.
Oh, okay. Millie has a very interesting question.
Are you looking to have a demo of the single player experience with a big beta update? Yeah. So we are working on putting a single player like snippet / demo thing that will be accessible. I don't know who exactly we're gonna have that accessible to from the get-go. So we are working on that single player. But in terms of having it available to everybody, I'm not sure if we're gonna have that available to absolutely everybody immediately, but because of like full disclosure, it would be nice to have a publisher, and so so we might like show them that first, but I don't know, like we're gonna have to figure it out. But yeah, single player demo is definitely in the works. And we were working on that like actively, so yes. Yeah, we're working on that.
It's pretty awesome.
it's nice to see things like come together. So
Yeah, so there'll be some form of story, there'll be some form of, the game's about running a mercenary crew. That's what the Steam page says, and you don't really do that yet.
yeah, that's what the Steam page says, so it must be true, right?
So yeah, we're working on bringing that to fruition in some form.
Yeah, no, it's happening. It's just, we want to get things looking and feeling exactly right before we shove that out to the general populace. So that's not to say that we won't need some extra eyeballs on it before it gets pushed out to a lot of people. So
yeah, to be honest, if you're watching this stream, then
wink,
we will
wink,
probably show you.
Hint,
Yeah.
nudge, nudge. Say no more.
Yeah.
This probably, if you're watching this stream, you'll probably have access to it. We'll probably spin up some. We'll get you access because we want to hear your feedback before we push that out to a lot more people. So, no, it'll be there. So. Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be designed in terms of the single player as well, but we're giving you kind of a snippet of what it feels like to do like a mission in there. So there's some stuff around the periphery as well. There's some like tutorialization that's gonna have to be in there. But yeah, the combat will be very familiar to you. But yeah, so we got some cool people writing some of the story stuff. We're doing a lot of other stuff right now. So. Oh no! If you speedrun it, then we're gonna have to add in keyboard shortcuts to for dialogue choices. So don't make us do that. No, I was kidding. Because no one likes to sit there and click things. Oh man, Jason, I'm just thinking of like different like keyboard commands for this game and like being able to target tiles by using the numpad.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's perfect. I would just look at like, where is like a 3x3 square on the keyboard? Like, oh, the numpad. Yeah, the only issue with that is being able to select your side versus the opponent's side. But I'm sure if you like hold down a button, it could make it so that it targets your side of the grid or something like that.
Oh, so Warrior has gone down here.
Yeah, Warrior is
Apparently
down.
An opportunity to jump on the heel.
This is also true. I mean, Warwick's characters are full up, so unfortunately, don't really need to hop on that heel quite yet. Definitely gonna try to knock down Bolt here. Plenty right there. Well, since we did get some trade blows in there, definitely a good time to hop on that heel at this point then. And we're back to a 2v2 situation here. So actually, we're in a pretty close game. Ooh, opting not for that health pickup there. And instead trying to get as much damage as possible with that tunnel vision. Yeah, Warwick's opting for a hyper aggro kind of move. Basically, what Warwick needs to do is calculate whether or not it's worth, we have 2 Ranger turns and a Warrior turn at this point, so that Berserker has to survive. If the Berserker does not survive that onslaught, then that was a miscalculation, but we'll see how much damage Maliv can get out. Oh, it's going to be a close one. Oh, I don't think it's going to be a close one anymore. There's a couple of things that Warwick's might have done in order to mitigate some damage output. Could have actually placed that Ranger in front of the Berserker at some point, maybe, to get just some of that passive like armor bonus there. Able to get out some more damage, though, considering that the Warrior did choose that defensive stance instead of the Sentinel stance. So there is that. But unfortunately, that Berserker has does not have an opportunity to mitigate that incoming damage from the Ranger. That being said, Warwick's Ranger does have last one standing bonus right now, so should be able to at least clean up one character, especially with that damage bonus. However, Maliv does go to that evasive stance, so looks like Warwick's is probably going to want to target that warrior, considering the health differential there.
Yep.
But we might get down to a Ranger v Ranger situation. Nope. Instead of opting for the Ranger, disregarding that evasive stance, just going for it.
Interesting. I feel like Maliv put the Ranger there to maybe shield the warrior slightly as well.
Yes, that's exactly what Maliv was doing there.
So Warwick's refused to play into that, I suppose.
Well, I think Warwick's needed to play that game. Need to play the odds in order to even be in this fight, I believe. Just considering the damage output that Maliv has.
And Maliv, I guess, opting to focus to remove the RNG, so the Ranger's evasive stance can't dodge focus abilities.
Yep,
so
that's entirely true. If we just look at this right here, there you go. 25% chance to dodge any incoming non-focus attack. So focus attacks do mitigate that RNG, and just allows you to target that Ranger and deal damage without any problems here. So. We'll see if Maliv tries to do some damage output to mitigate that RNG there with the focused ability, or Maliv can heal up as well, and that is exactly what Maliv is going to do. Buy a little bit extra time in that Ranger. Get some additional damage output as well from that bonus, that attack boost from the field kit. All right, looks like we're going to get that shove in there. A little extra support damage. That does get dodged, though. Yeah, we'll see what happens here. Especially with that health pickup, Warwick can stay in the game for a pretty long while.
yeah, Warwick has been saving that one.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, you know, only for the choicest moment. Looks like Warwick is going to attempt to just quick shot that Ranger down eventually. Unfortunately, that Ranger is behind half cover, so taking half damage from those quick shots, unfortunately. Oh, can't get behind that half cover now. That'd be a little bit costly. Ah, yeah, Warwick's that health respawns. Did we?
That's why he's saving it. Okay.
We're gonna have to patch that that description in. Yeah, we're gonna have to patch that description in real quick. Yeah, it respawns every 6 rounds, I believe, something like that. Yeah, that is a respawning health pickup. Yeah, we're gonna have to add that description in there. Probably could have changed the numbers for you there, Warwick's. Ooh, just field kitting up. This is a very Ranger-centric endgame here.
So he's probably really enjoying that half cover, but Warwick is locked out, but at least he has the option of jumping onto the heel.
Yes, is entirely true. Lots of healing going on in this fight right now. Eventually someone's going to have to go for the aggro maneuver and try to knock someone out for good.
Yeah, and having 2 characters and the availability to support is obviously a huge
Yes. Yeah.
huge factor as well.
Yep, it's definitely helping out right now. Yeah, Paul, I wouldn't mind having the health respawn be a little bit more sparse than 6 rounds, but
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like 10 health every 6 rounds shouldn't be too much of a big deal, but yeah, looking at this battle in particular.
yep, it doesn't help with like kind of these like hurdle kind of
Although I am kind of
strategies.
enjoying this end game, to be honest.
I mean, it's not so far away from being over at this point, so oh, oh, so close. Oh, we do get a dodge though. Works does have a couple more chances to knock out that ranger. Oh, it's so close to a 1v1 situation here. All right, that's gonna be it. Leaf pulls ahead. You can stretch 35% pretty far. You can stretch 35% to a long time.
Awesome. Okay, I think maybe we have time for one more
Yeah, I think so.
battle this evening. Who is up for that?
Who wants to jump in?
Should we call it a free for all? Okay, Ali's dropped the challenge.
All right, whoever hops in on that.
Paul dropping secret arcane knowledge there.
It's a technicality, but it does add up to those 25/35%. So
Yeah, it's a bit of fudging that maintains those averages, but makes like really long dodge streaks. Yeah.
well
It prevents like crazy streaks.
technically you can't dodge 6 times in a row. So technically you cannot. There's some fudging going on behind there to make it more quote fair. So yeah. Yeah, there were situations where there were just dodge fests over and over and over again, but we got there.
I remember the feedback. We sent out a feedback survey and all the responses.
God. I'll say the responses were both mixed and unanimous at the same time. Mixed as in it felt really good dodging everything, but it felt really bad when your opponent dodged everything. So, and unanimous in the way that it was unfair. So,
did anyone jump into Ali's duel? I think Millie was suggesting Dino should maybe
let us know.
But open invite, I guess.
Whoever wants to bounce in. All right, awesome. Get in there. All right, let's get in there. Health pickup, half cover, corrosive tile. A good mix of positive and negative going on here.
I think Dino quite wisely doubling down on the same team comp.
Yeah, it's good to
getting a bit of familiarity.
Yeah, mastering a couple of characters early is definitely a good idea, so you can really feel the ins and outs of those characters first before you start. Like, there's like a couple of layers of abstraction on like strategy here, which is one of which is like really knowing what your characters can do, and then the second of which is like knowing what, you know, how they interact together in the most beneficial way, and then like the third layer is like figuring out how to react to what your opponent is doing. So definitely figuring out what you're doing first is a good idea.
Sorry, I'm loving Maleev's hot sauce comparisons here. Can we compare every dev and regular player to Thunderbolts, please?
Yeah, Maleev is the chunky hot sauce that has random like full seeds in it. It's just gonna blow your mouth away real quick if you're not careful.
The unlabeled jar, yeah.
The unlabeled mystery hot sauce. It's the hot sauce that that your friend says that they made themselves before they know how hot is too hot.
So Ali's creating a tile of death here on the back row.
Yeah, that's kind of nasty back there. You don't want to be there.
I guess
you especially don't want to. Yeah, go ahead.
The only way to force somebody onto it seems is with Warrior's shove, so they're kind of incentivizing somebody not to stand in that middle covered tile.
That's true.
Due to the risk of being shoved.
It takes a little bit to set that up, considering it's a focus ability, but Warrior's already focused, so once a Warrior gets to take a turn, you really don't want to be in that. You don't want to be in that center tile. But that does preclude you from, you know, taking half damage from that Ranger's attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, trading some blows there. Taking a big chunk of damage, but definitely worth it to try to knock out that Ranger, because it looks like Elephant's kind of like end game thing eventually is trying to use the Ranger as much as possible, because really doubling down on trying to motivate Dinosaur to get that Ranger out of that half cover. So if you take out the damage output, then there's no real. It's fine to be in there.
So Berserker chomping the heel relatively early. So missing out on a bit of tunnel vision potential possibly, but keeping the health up at the same time. It's a tough call, I think.
I mean, health is nice to have on that Berserker. It gives the Berserker a couple more tools, especially with trade blows. You know, the Berserker staying into the fight as long as possible is a good idea. Much like any character, really, but especially Berserker, because they want to use that health as a resource. So if you can get some back to kind of eke out some extra damage there, it's pretty useful.
Yeah, I mean, I often will try and focus the opponent's Berserker down as a priority, so...
Yeah, like my favorite way to focus down that Berserker is to just use Totem and switch over to the shock module there, because that damage over time is pretty nasty on the Berserker just by itself without any other supporting characters doing that. Especially if you can do that early on in the game and kind of just place that Totem like to the side of the Berserker real quick. It's a lot of damage output, I would say. All right, Dinosaur wisely getting out of there. Relatively protected as well, getting a little bit extra defense there from the Berserker. However, aha! You activated Elephant's trap card, and that totem's now in the center, which really opens up the shock module, or excuse me, the system overload rather. Yep.
Outrageous indeed.
Outrageous indeed. I didn't even think about that until it was too late. Yeah, this team composition's really, really nice in this particular battlefield layout. So it's all kind of mostly revolving around that center tile, since it's very important, considering it's so close to a very beneficial tile, that being half cover, but also to a very, very, very negative tile, which is that corrosive tile. So knowing how to manipulate that as best as possible is a good idea.
Mhm.
Thankfully, that warrior can hop on over to get some health. Otherwise, they're in a little bit of trouble at this point.
Yeah, the only downside being if they drop into that back row there's not much they can do stance-wise to help out there.
No, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, there's always the potential of just trying to wait it out, use that focus as early as possible, get some damage in, and switching over to a sentinel stance to get some defensive capabilities there.
Yeah, I couldn't say what's the right call.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables flying around right now. All right, so let's see what happens here with this warrior. Fortunately, it looks like the warrior is going to get knocked out if they use that sentinel stance, or if they use the shove on sentinel stance warrior. That is definitely a good move, though. Spreading that damage around. Ooh, a little bit of a dodge, though. Unfortunately, not getting in that little support damage, but that's okay. That was
Sweet.
definitely a decent amount of damage there, and definitely brought Dinosaur back into the game. Often you get that health. You know, depending on who Dinosaur wants to really focus on here, could knock out that Ranger, could deal some really decent damage to Totem. Unfortunately, probably not going to be quite enough to knock out Totem, but I think we're going to see a system overload pretty soon, unfortunately. Oh, unfortunately for Dinosaur. Whoa, wow, look at that! That was definitely enough to knock out Totem.
They found a way.
Yeah, we're not gonna see. We're definitely not gonna see any. Excuse me, not gonna see any system overloads here. So I think Dinosaur's just kind of flipped the script real quick. And Elephant's kind of in a little bit of pickle there, because otherwise they would have been able to deal a ton of damage to both the Berserker, well, to everybody, and could have gotten a couple characters down really low at that point. Elephant really needs to find a line to knock out at least one character here to even it up.
Yeah, I was kind of confused by that focus, but jumping onto the heel makes a lot more sense now.
Oh yeah, definitely. Knocking out that Berserker. It's a pretty good move there. Did a decent amount of damage to the Ranger as well. Yeah, the Warrior Ranger has always been pretty dominant in terms of like supporting each other, so. I mean, we might have to eventually look at the overall effectiveness of the Ranger and the Warrior. Especially the Warrior, I would say. Warrior's just always been a pretty dominant character. We've had a series of slight debuffs to the Ranger over time. The Warrior has pretty much seen only a couple of debuffs, I believe. A couple of buffs, actually, as well.
Yeah, I mean, part of me thinks that's because the Warrior's almost the baseline which you could try and balance other characters against. I mean,
yeah, that's
that
true.
kind of makes sense to me to think of them in that way. They're straightforward. One of the original characters, a straightforward kind of attacking and defensive character.
Yeah, we might be still in a situation in which the Warrior still slightly has too much damage output, but...
So we do look at combinations, although,
yes.
To be honest, we don't have enough data for those to be like super significant, but we do track those, and we've noticed some like particular team comps which are doing really well. But as we've added these new terrain objects and we now have these new layouts, yeah, right, like with the new objects especially, I think team characters are a lot more viable, and it's a lot less obvious what the dominant strategy would be. There was a time when folks like Warwick's found some pretty unbeatable strategies when it was a plain 3x3 battlefield,
Yes.
and that team comp would have a really high pick and win rate. But yeah, I think things are a little bit different now. We'd need to start tracking stats based on terrain type in some way.
Yep.
Like the way I normally think of it is kind of open versus more crowded maps, where maybe more positional control, characters with forcing positional stuff tend to become more useful, you know, like engineer and totem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely true. So I mean, the more people that we have playing, the better data we can get. So
yeah, my overall feeling is like battles are way less predictable, and I often fail in my prediction of kind of who's going to win.
I mean, the idea is that they feel like there's at least it feels like there's a large like possibility space for success and failure, but it can't feel too unpredictable, as in like I don't know what characters to choose, or I don't know how to counter something, at least in theory. Like we do not like the one side of it is we do not want a solved game. Like, we do not want there to be like one or two team comps that are only viable and nothing else is viable. Like, that's not fun. It's not enjoyable. But equally unenjoyable is, you know, being able to pick whatever 3 characters and have them still be viable without any kind of strategy behind it. I mean, sometimes that sounds fun in theory, where anything can be viable, but, you know, the idea of this game is to pick characters that work well together. Or at least characters that work well with the environment as well as the terrain. So the idea is that you at least need some kind of strategy going in, and then you're set up for, you're at least trying to set up yourself for success. So there should be some strategy going into it, but that shouldn't be the end-all be-all. Like, I have to pick these 3 characters on this map, and that's the only way I'm going to succeed. So it's tough, especially with, you know, not having as many players as, you know, we would want. I mean, technically we would want infinite players. So we can get infinite data to get the most granular kind of stats. But, you know, you always want more. All right, so we do have that half cover over on Elephant's side there, really helping out with that Ranger's damage output. So we'll see what happens here. If Elephant just kind of goes playing the RNG and just does the slashes, or if Ali's going to switch on over to focus abilities. The only unfortunate thing is that Elephant's already pretty low, so they're going to have to figure out a strategy very soon. All right, getting 12 damage in there. Deciding to stay where they are, not pick up that health bonus quite yet.
Oh, Malief has a good point there. The evasive stance has a higher dodge percentage if you're stood right at the front.
That's true. Although in this circumstance, definitely picking up that health boost is the most useful thing at this point. But yeah, being in that front column does give you that extra 10%, which is pretty useful.
Yeah, I think Dino may just be able to grind this out with some quick shots, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so, especially since we have 2 attacks in a row here on Dino's side. But we are going to focus up. Dino setting themselves up for success here.
I feel like this is quite one of the most common end games, right? Is Warrior versus Ranger, and it's the exact sequencing of, do you use the field kit for the damage boost? Do you just grind out the attacks and all of this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And Dino opting to boost themselves up, tired of dealing like a measly 4 or 6 points of damage.
But we do get a dodge there. That's a very, very decisive dodge. So the warrior has got their health down low enough that they need to step out, which...
Yeah, this is perfect timing, really.
A whopping 9 damage. All right, another attack in there. Back into half cover. Got a couple more rounds there before the health buff spawns on some tile. Just grinding it out at this point. Another solid 12 damage. It's only 2 more shots from Elephant's side here. However, that Ranger does have 2 turns in a row. So it looks like this is probably going to be it, especially with that rather unfortunate heal spawn on Elephant's side inside of the corrosive tile. That's gonna definitely do it. All right, Dino takes it away. And that battle is over. Good job, everybody. All right, so I think that's just about gonna do it for the day. I will say that if anybody has 3,000 channel points there, you can direct our raid. So if anybody has that amount of points, I don't know if anyone does. But if you do, you can definitely tell us where to go. 2940. How do I give you like 60 points? Whoa, Believe got it.
Ooh.
All right, next time, Allie.
Where are we going, Believe?
We're 2. Well, you can do it next time, Warwick.
Sitting on the big points.
Oh, jeez. Paddle snake. All right, Jason, how do I do this? I haven't done it from...
So, you just do /raid and then the name. I'm ready to do it in the chat if you want me to just
Oh,
pull the
yeah, if you
trigger.
can do it. Yeah, can mods do that? I mean, if you can do that. All right, sweet, and it all the time.
We good to go?
Yeah, I think we're good to go. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. And yeah, it was a great time today. I didn't see as many corpse pushes, but as we would want to, but plenty of time to do that on your own time and push some stuff around.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, the corpse pushes do seem super situational, but hey.